Hey BBN, Croatian center Andrija Jelavić seems to be Kentucky's man. Let's analyze the Wildcats news. The atmosphere at Kentucky basketball has been filled with a mix of anticipation and optimism, fueled by a name that's slowly gaining momentum in conversations among fans and analysts, Andrija Jelavić. The Croatian center, with his refined European experience and innate sense of the game, seems to be fitting in as an essential piece of Coach Mark Pope's project. Despite arriving late and facing a challenging start after missing all of summer training, Jelavić has shown clear signs that he can be much more than just a one-time addition. He can be the difference maker capable of changing the team's outlook in decisive moments. Jelavic's recent performance has already left impressive marks. Coming off the bench, he demonstrated not only technical skill, but also a winning mentality. The 2 3-pointers he made in the final game weren't just numerical successes. They symbolized something bigger. That second basket, followed by a shy smile, epitomizes Jelavic's growing confidence, as he seems to be finding his groove and rhythm within Pope's demanding system. And it doesn't stop there. He sealed the victory with a pinpoint counterattack in the final moments, proving that his presence goes beyond cold statistics. He's the kind of player who decides games when least expected. Defensively, Jelavić also shone. Standing 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighing an impressive 225 pounds, he brought physicality to the court, something Coach Mark Pope emphasized as crucial to the style of play he intends to consolidate. His block on Reese Potter, the opposing center at 7 feet 1 inch, 2.18 meters, was emblematic. It's not just about size or physical strength, but also about positional intelligence and perfect timing. Qualities Jelavić developed during his career in Europe and which are now beginning to flourish on American soil. Furthermore, his 4 rebounds reflected a committed performance, one that understands the importance of dominating the paint and controlling the flow of the game. Mark Pope, always measured in his words, was full of praise for the Croatian. He acknowledged that Jelavic's start was marked by difficulties, especially the 9-week delay that prevented him from participating in summer workouts. However, the coach also highlighted the remarkable improvements in recent weeks, the result of dedication and quick adaptation to Kentucky's style of play. He's making the game a little simpler, said Pope, a phrase that resonates with a profound recognition of the maturity Jelavić displays on the court. Simplifying basketball, after all, is a rare art, and few can do it without sacrificing efficiency. Despite not being expected to start this season, Jelavic's role as a key player on the bench has become increasingly evident. On a team where other players, like Quaintance, face physical limitations, and Oa is still trying to regain his best form, the Croatian emerges as a reliable and versatile alternative. His ability to contribute both offensively and defensively offers Kentucky valuable tactical flexibility. And, as Pope rightly noted, as long as Jelavić stays healthy, the Cats can expect great things from him throughout the season. There's something special about the way Jelavić plays. Perhaps it's the experience gained in European competitions, where basketball tends to be more technical and strategic, or perhaps it's his resilience in overcoming early obstacles. Regardless, he brings with him an aura of renewed promise to Kentucky. It's impossible not to imagine how this center, who started late but progressed quickly, could evolve even further as he becomes more comfortable with the team's tactics and dynamics. For Kentucky fans, Jelavić represents that pleasant surprise, the player who comes in quietly and leaves to applause. He doesn't need to be the star player, nor does he need to take center stage in every game. But when needed, he'll be there, ready to make the difference with a 3-pointer, a crucial block, or a game-winning rebound. And that alone is enough to generate high expectations for the near future. Let's move on. Boley could have left Kroger field a hero. The stats said so. The numbers screamed it. 258 passing yards, 45 rushing yards, 31 completions on 39 attempts, 1 touchdown, and the composure of a veteran. But the scoreboard didn't tell the same story. Kentucky lost to Texas 16-13 in overtime, and in the locker room, the young quarterback's face said more than any number could. The feeling that he was only 6 inches away from turning a night of progress into a night of glory. "We should have come out of there with a win," Boley said, summing up the collective feeling of a team learning to grow amid pain. It's tough when you fall short like that. There was no self-promotion, no speeches about personal growth. The freshman from Hodgenville put aside the shine of the numbers and looked at the result like a leader beginning to understand the weight of the helmet he carries. His performance against the 21st ranked team in the country was by far the best of his short career, but what impressed Mark Stoops most wasn't his arm or his accuracy. It was his poise. "I'm very impressed with Cutter," the coach said without hesitation. "There were some things early on. We coached him, talked to him, and he responded with maturity. He's learning, staying positive, working hard. I like seeing that." His completion percentage was impressive, and he looked very comfortable. That word, comfortable, is perhaps the highest praise Stoops could offer. On a night when Kentucky's offense was still struggling to find its rhythm, Boley remained calm in the pocket, read complex defenses, and executed the plan with clockwork precision. There were mistakes, sure, a hasty interception, 2 sacks that could have been avoided. But there was also the clarity of a player who understands that the game demands constant adaptation. "I just have to take what they give me, and when I have to make a play, I will," he explained. Offensive coordinator Bush Hamdan confirmed what Stoops had already hinted. Boley is growing at a remarkable rate. His confidence continues to grow, but we're falling short. We're not making those plays. I understand the criticism. It's justified, and we need to fix that. It's the confession of a team that's close, but not quite there yet. A team that does almost everything right, but stumbles on the details. And in the middle of it all, a rookie who refuses to hide behind statistics. Boley didn't want to talk about the best game of his career because he knows that moral victories don't fill the table. What he wanted to talk about was work, the need to come back on Monday and adjust what needs to be adjusted. Everyone believes that confidence hasn't diminished one bit. We just have to keep working and trying hard. A loss sucks, but I don't think it shook anyone's confidence. This maturity is what separates promises from reality. Boley doesn't sound like a freshman trying to prove he belongs in the SEC. He sounds like a quarterback who understands that leadership means bearing the consequences, even when the effort borders on heroism. And Stoops, who has built Kentucky on the pillars of discipline and resilience for over a decade, seems to finally see his philosophy reflected on the field. The Wildcats are 2-4, but anyone watching the team realizes that their record doesn't reflect their progress. The defense, led by Brad White, remains a fortress. The offense, on the other hand, is discovering its identity under Boley. He's not yet the perfect quarterback. No one is at 19, but he has something that can't be taught. Common moments when the game heats up. Against Texas, Boley showed everything Kentucky has been searching for years. Poise, reading, composure, and above all, conviction. Even without a victory, the team left the field certain that it has a future to build on. And Boley himself seems to understand the magnitude of this responsibility. "We know the team we have. We're here working every day," he said, with the naturalness of someone who speaks more from the heart than from the script. On a night of defeat, Cutter Boley emerged stronger, not because of the touchdown, nor because of the numbers, but because he understood that, in football, growing up hurts, and that only those who feel that pain up close can transform it into strength. Kentucky lost the game, but maybe, just maybe, they found their quarterback. Lexington is tired, and perhaps for the first time in a long time, The sound echoing through Kroger Field after another Kentucky loss wasn't resigned applause or hopeful cheering, but rather a collective frustration bordering on exhaustion. The 16-13 loss to Texas, in yet another painful overtime, marked a symbolic breaking point for Big Blue Nation, the moment when patience turned to disbelief. 10 consecutive home losses against Power 4 opponents, 9 of them in the SEC, 749 days without a major victory in Lexington. The last true smile from home fans against a conference rival was on September 30th, 2023, when Kentucky defeated Florida. Since then, a string of results seems to repeat itself with the same soundtrack: effort, hope, and disappointment. Missouri, Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Auburn, Louisville, Ole Miss, Texas. A list that weighs not only on the statistics, but also on the identity of a program that seemed to have solidified itself under Mark Stoops. Fans continue to show up wearing blue, believing that maybe this time will be different. But on Saturday night, when the final kick in overtime sealed another defeat, hope gave way to irritation. Silent exits, heads bowed, and in many cases, harsh words directed at the coaching staff. The players deserve better, some repeated, while others openly criticized the way the team has been led. It's hard to blame them, because even amidst the bitter streak, Kentucky still shows flashes of talent, like the growing brilliance of Cutter Boley. The freshman, who had an impressively mature performance against Texas, seemed poised to be the symbol of a turnaround. His composure in the pocket and the confidence with which he led the offense gave the fans a brief breath of faith, the idea that the future could finally begin that night. And for a moment, Kroger Field pulsated again. But when the final play ended just inches from glory, everything fell apart again. And with it came the realization that defeats are no longer just bumps in the road, but symptoms of something deeper, a team that sabotages itself in the details, that executes with discipline but plans hesitantly. The most frequent criticism isn't about effort, but about direction. Predictable play calling, red zone conservatism, and spur-of-the-moment decisions have cost them dearly. Running the quarterback on 3rd and 2 in overtime against a lineup stacked with future NFL draft picks was a spark that turned frustration into anger. Mark Stoops, true to form, repeated his speech, "We'll get back to work." But for many, those words have lost their weight, because the fans also worked. They continued to pack the stadium, supporting the program, investing in NIL, braving travel, and waiting in lines, believing the tide will turn. But the losses continue to pile up like hurdles in the path of a team that, a few years ago, seemed to have broken the barrier of mediocrity and established itself among the SEC's competitive ranks. What hurts isn't just losing. It's losing at home, with the fans in attendance, with the same mistakes, and with the same feeling of déjà vu. Kroger Field, once the scene of memorable victories, now seems like a mirror of the collective anxiety that has gripped the program. Stoops still gets credit for the structural transformation he led in Lexington. He built stability, made Kentucky competitive, and restored respect to a historically underrated program. But the last 2 seasons have revealed cracks, especially on offense, that can no longer be covered up by talk of rebuilding. Football is a sport of cycles, and what was once confidence has turned into pressure. Perhaps the loss to Texas was the emotional turning point that was needed. The day Big Blue Nation stopped expecting miracles and started demanding change. It's not just about winning games. It's about rekindling the connection between the team and its most loyal base, a fan base that did its part even when the return was disappointing. The question that looms now is simple and inevitable. Can Kentucky football still sustain itself under the weight of its own promise? It's tough. Leave your comment.